For over 1,000 years, Western civilization has been stuck in a dark age of sexual repression and misinformation. We get an oversexed overload from the media, but nothing in the way of honest, helpful, practical information on sex and how to do it right. That sucks, and I'm fucking sick of it. My name's JV Altheras, and I've spent a couple decades learning everything I can about how to have amazing sex and more of it. Not in a classroom like a lot of people who talk about sex. I learned it all in the gutter, right where Mom told me I'd end up. It's my mission to bring an end to the sexual dark age with brutally honest talk and education on all aspects of sex and sexuality, in an atmosphere that will keep you entertained without treating you like an idiot. Shara and I are not doctors. Certifiable, perhaps, but not certified in any way. And that means we don't have to talk about vaginas and penises to maintain academic credibility. You got a problem with a vagina? Call a gynecologist. You want to learn more about pussies and cocks and how to make them happy? You've come to the right place. Ending the Sexual Dark Age is now sponsored by the internet's most trusted name in adult toys. A happy pussy likes to play more often. AdamandEve.com is offering you guys half off on your choice of thousands upon thousands of vibrators and dildos and cock rings and strap-ons, nipple clamps, porn DVDs, butt plugs, pocket pussies, anything else you can imagine to either get yourself off or have some fun with your playmate. As always, we highly recommend making sex toys part of your sex life, and right now, AdamandEve.com is only asking for one chance to impress you. They're offering an awesome deal in support of ending the sexual dark age, and the whole thing goes a little like this. By typing Dark Age, all one word, for the offer code at checkout, you will get 50% off the most expensive item in your cart, with a few exceptions, free shipping, 3 free porn DVDs, and a sexy free mystery gift. Free DVDs are selected randomly and added to your order before they ship. AdamandEve.com is willing to damn near pay you to get off. So stop by, enter DARKAGE at checkout, and proceed to collect on an awesome deal. Or just follow one of the links on sexualdarkage.com. Welcome to episode 38. Over the year or so that we've been doing this show, we've gotten a lot of questions regarding getting started as a sexual dominant, including a lot from people who wanted to be dominated but had no idea how to get the ball rolling with their significant other. There are a ton of resources out there in the inner tubes about how to be a good submissive, but resources for dominance are more spotty. Thankfully, I have a slave to sort through a bunch of those and give me a short list for review and recommendation. We talked a lot about the basics of BDSM back in episodes 17 and 19, so if you're a new listener reaching for some kink, it'd be a good idea to check out those episodes as well. We make an effort not to rehash the same topics over and over again, but moving forward, we'll be taking some time to hit the subject a piece at a time to focus on specific aspects. In this episode, we'll be talking a bit about the philosophy of sexual dominance from a getting you started perspective, and how to start cultivating a healthy dominant headspace for yourself. Most importantly, dominating someone isn't about making them do things that they don't want to do. It's about giving them the freedom to enjoy doing things that the sexual dark age tells them they shouldn't enjoy. And doing so by creating an atmosphere in which it seems, to everyone in the room, that they don't have a choice. An old playmate of mine put it very well one day when I was telling her what a little slut she was. She said, "That's not my fault. You make me do all that stuff. I'm a good girl." The first thing I'll ask you to do is forget whatever you might have seen in BDSM porn. As with all porn, it's entertainment, and not a reflection of real life. In the real world, kinky play can deliver amazingly profound connections between playmates, but the only time it tends to look like BDSM porn is when you're in the middle of playing out a specific scene or fantasy. Usually, the stuff that ends up in the final cut represents the extremes of fantasy and not the experience that most kinky people are going for, and it definitely just isn't there to represent the entire experience. Porn shows some practice, but doesn't touch on psychology or philosophy because, well, let's face it, nobody jerks off to philosophy. Kinky porn can be a great way to explore your own fantasies, come up with ideas, and get a feeling for what directions your own kinks may lead you in, but newbies generally should not be trying to play along at home with what they see on kink.com. With the exception of embracing or bucking traditional gender roles, pretty much everything about sexual dominance applies equally to male or female doms. For the purposes of this episode, just to make pronouns manageable, I'll be referring to dominance in the male and submissives in the female, because that's my personal point of view and how I interact with kink. So if you've ever enjoyed slapping ass, or pulling hair, or giving orders, or tying people up, making them beg, or calling them filthy names, you've got the makings of a sexual dominant. If you've got an interest in exploring that further, this episode is intended to help you start to find your bearings. This time we talk philosophy, and in a couple episodes we'll get to practical matters in Sexual Dominance Part 2. Becoming a dom isn't like flipping a switch that changes your life or drastically alters everything about your relationship. The vast majority of kinky people keep their kink restricted to sex play, and it doesn't have much, if any, impact on life outside the dungeon. The good news is that the deep connections and trust that come out of healthy kinky play will strengthen everything about your relationship, even if your shackles and bullwhips stay behind closed doors. I won't lie to you, being a good dom is a lot of fucking work. It takes time, patience, confidence, creativity, and a willingness to constantly analyze your own performance while demanding honest feedback from your submissive. In my opinion, as you might guess, it's well worth the effort. The payoff isn't just about the discipline that you'll gain for yourself, or even the joys of having a human fuck toy that'll do whatever filthy thing you tell her to and then thank you for it afterwards. That is nice. But the big payoff is getting your head into dom space once in a while. There's always a lot of talk in kinky circles about subspace, that warm, orgasmic, comfortably numb feeling that washes over submissives when we're using them just right and they truly surrender. Dom space is the dominance warm, happy place, but it's very much the other side of the coin. It's a headspace where you shake off every monkey on your back, shed all your self-doubt, and release all the anxiety of living in a world where the list of things that you actually control is way too short. I've been thinking for a little while about how best to describe dom space, and this is the best thing that I've come up with. You know that feeling when you're an Egyptian pharaoh, and you're standing in front of your temple, and there are a dozen naked concubines begging to serve you, and thousands of your loyal subjects on their knees basking in your glorious presence? Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's good to be the king. And dom space makes you feel like the king. But it requires the absolute trust and surrender of your submissive. Being a good dom is about gaining that trust and learning to play your submissive's mind and body like a musical instrument. A submissive wants to give up control, to be thrown down and used like a piece of property, but there's a big asterisk on that. In order for her to do that, to give you control of her mind and body, she has to have absolute trust that her dom will not try to force her to do something she finds repulsive or disturbing, and that he'll protect her and keep her from actually being harmed, by himself or anyone else. Even if that's only for a brief period of playtime. A dom is taking ownership of the submissive, and along with that comes the responsibility to protect her. It's a different kind of chemistry than anything you get with vanilla sex. Everyone's kinky desires are different, and there are plenty of subs out there who love bondage and humiliation but might not be into pain play, or love a good spanking but don't like being told what to do. You need to have the discipline and patience for slow, methodical experimentation, especially if you and or your submissive are new to the game. Each time you play, try a little bit of something new and then talk about it afterwards. Talk. Communication is the absolute rock foundation of rewarding play, both in-game and post-game. But be careful not to try a whole bunch of new things every time you play kinky. And if you do, the feedback you get, or the quality of the feedback you get, is going to go down because you're introducing too many new experiences at once. Now, as far as my communication with Shara, I like to ask really detailed, embarrassing questions that make her blush quite a bit, and I know she really likes something when she cannot look me in the eye while she's admitting it. But an inexperienced submissive will be tempted to tell the dom what she thinks he wants to hear. And that's a natural expression of submissiveness. It's a natural expression of a desire to please. But in those circumstances, the submissive's desire to please can become self-destructive, and one of the dom's many jobs is to keep that from happening. And you do that by learning to read your submissive and learning to tell, because there will be visual cues when they're not telling you the whole story. Now, it's often said that the submissive has all the power. That's a great soundbite, but it's only true in a vacuum. The submissive has the right and is required to set limits, and the all-important right to hit the emergency brake if necessary if something is going wrong. She chooses whether or not to submit in the first place and gets to set boundaries. But once she does submit, she gives up all control within those boundaries. Think of it like she's handing you an artist's palette, with all the colors of paint being different types of play, from bondage to pain play to humiliation to getting pissed on and spanked with a wet garter belt or whatever the hell else you might be into. You're still the artist, and you're deciding what picture you're going to paint. The art of sexual dominance is all about learning how much of each color to use and when to use it, and being careful not to use too much. And the communication is how you decide when to add new shades or new colors. Most importantly, once you start to learn a particular sub's limits in a given area, that's one less thing to worry about. The more ground you cover, the more you explore limits and try new things slowly, one at a time, you increase your power with the submissive by expanding the list of things that you can happily do without asking first. This will also increase your confidence and has a synergistic effect, because it lets her slip into the headspace of surrender more easily. Every time you have a good experience, you're reinforcing the fact that you are a trustworthy dom that is going to take care of her and make sure she comes to no harm. That kind of brings us to sadism and pain play. And the concept of sadism trips up a lot of beginners. As we talked about in episode 17, sadism is taking pleasure from causing pain. Now, honestly, I wish people would stop using the word sadism in connection to BDSM, because I believe it conjures the wrong image. Pain play isn't about causing pain for the sake of pain. It's about using pain to create or intensify pleasure. A true sadist doesn't care if the pain that they inflict is welcome or if it results in pleasure or any of that. That's why I don't like the word. A good dom is never a sadist, because a good dom doesn't intentionally cause harm or instill fear. But sometimes he may be a sadomasochist. A sadomasochist certainly enjoys inflicting pain, but only when that pain is part of a larger scheme to cause endless strings of ridiculously powerful orgasms. In kinky play, pain is a tool and not an end in itself. Pain and pleasure travel through the same nervous system and arrive in the same parts of the brain. As we'll discuss more in part 2, a little pain before a gentle touch can turn that gentle touch into something incredibly intense. In time, you just might learn that you can spank her ass purple and make her come with an ice cube without ever touching her pussy at all. A little pain can indeed be that powerful in the hands of a skillful operator. Alright, so now Shara is joining us to talk about the philosophy of sexual dominance.
The philosophy.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, yeah, Shara and I were talking, and we kind of decided to split this topic up into two, so we really just didn't want to have another jumbo-sized episode like we did when we did the BDSM Basics Part 1.
Well, there's so much to cover. I mean, so much to cover.
Right, so, today we're talking a little bit about the dominance headspace and the philosophy of dominance, and then as far as the actual tips and tricks and, how to turn your plaything into a real slut and all the rest of that, we're going to save for the next time we finish Part 2 of this topic.
Part 2.
Yes, maybe I'll title that Sexual Dominance Part 2, Getting Her to Beg You to Treat Her Like a Whore. Which I might have a little bit of experience with.
Just a little.
Just a little. Yes, just a little.
You made me do homework this time.
Well, yeah, you were the one who said there needs to be more homework.
I meant for them, not for me.
Well, that's irrelevant.
Okay. That's what I get for opening up my mouth.
Yeah, pretty much.
Open
the rest of the time you get something stuck in there.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that. Silence.
So, from a submissive's perspective, as far as what I've already said, is there anything that jumps out at you that you would like to add as advice from a submissive's perspective on how to be a good dominant?
A couple things. There is a lot of information out there that I did homework on like you wanted me to. And so I sent you the links so that you could take a look at them. But as I was reading, there's a lot of it that I realized I've either dealt with it already or am currently dealing with it with you. And so there's a lot of information out there. And if people, I think that's the biggest thing is communication is key. Trying to figure out whether you're a dominant, a switch, a submissive, and all those different things. But if you're really looking to see whether or not you're a dominant, I think that communication has to be something that you're good at. Because if you're not good at communicating, then you can't really take care of another submissive or, even a switch. A switch likes to, play both sides of the fence. So you have to be a good communicator if you're going to do that. And you can't assume anything. If you think that you know what that submissive is thinking, that's just a big no-no to me. You cannot assume something when you're dealing with, a submissive.
Well, I think we have to qualify that, though. The more you play with a given submissive, you learn to read their reactions. You learn to understand what they're thinking based on nonverbal cues of what you're seeing. And that's not assumption. That is just using observation and experience to get information without having to ask an actual question.
Correct. And then there's consistency. As a dominant, you have to be consistent. If you say, okay, you're going to write in your journal every day at 4:00, and if you're new to the lifestyle and you're playing with a submissive, or you get into a relationship, I should say, and you tell her, okay, you're going to write every day at 4:00. If you don't follow up to see if she's doing it, to see if she's consistent, then you're not doing her any favors. So.
Right. And that's part of the discipline, the inner discipline that the dominant has to have.
Which is next on my list. Discipline.
Oh, okay.
There's discipline for the dominant, but there's also discipline for the submissive.
And if you're any example, the submissive needs more discipline than the dominant does.
Why, of course. Okay, but that's because I have that side of me that likes to have fun and have that cute little bratty side of me come out. And by the way, not that I'm saying it's good to do that. I am not. I just know that there's that part of me, and I know that my dominant now knows that about me because it's part of who I am. Not that it's something that you like, but I have that little, what I consider cutesy, bratty little part of me that comes out that you do not think is cutesy. And
there are times that it can be cute. However, the skill that you need to polish is when you try that, I generally make it fairly obvious that I am not amused when I am not amused, and you need to get better at recognizing that and then stopping.
Oh, I don't think we're talking about us right now, are we? We're just kind of talking about a dominant. So.
Well, a second ago, we're talking about you and how cute you think it is when you're bratty and disobedient.
Yes, and I'd kind of like to just roll right over that one.
But it's too late for that.
I'm just using me as an example here.
And so am I.
Okay.
Keep digging.
I'm trying, but the more I dig, the further down I just keep going.
That's right. Bring me back some Kung Pao chicken.
So now we're going to go to responsibility and being responsible. And, as a dominant, you are responsible not only for yourself, but you are responsible for your slaves, submissives. You have a responsibility for them in making sure that they're taken care of, not just physically, but all the way around. So there's the part about responsibility. And then there's maintenance.
Oil changes, lube jobs.
Exactly. Just like a car and its oil changes. Exactly. You like the lube job, don't you?
Not as much as you do.
And the maintenance varies. It could be something simple like providing support. But the maintenance basically is saying that things can change every 3,000 miles on a car. Well, I wouldn't say 3,000 days, but regular maintenance with the relationship is...
I just had this terrible visual of like a stroke counter. Send her in for a lube job every 3,000 strokes.
She'd probably like that. I'm sorry, you're up for a lube job. Okay, yeah, yay!
I couldn't help that. Please continue.
And then there's follow-up, which is not far off from maintenance. But let's say that you punish your submissive. I'll keep my name out of this. And let's say she does something wrong. And so you explain to her what she did wrong. And then you might give her something to do or might ask her to redo something. Then you follow up on it to see how she did with that and work with her and explain things to her so that she understands it. And so basically the dominant is responsible for follow-up on certain things.
And one thing that I think it's important to draw a distinction with, because it's something that can be very confusing, especially to new people. when we talk about discipline, there are two different kinds of discipline, and unfortunately they're referred to with the same word. One is the bondage and discipline role play, which is, I've been a bad girl and I need a spanking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, keep talking.
But, that's role play, and it gets you into some pain play, and that is, basically fantasy punishment as a part of your kinky play. It's creating a role play excuse for a spanking, or for some bondage, or whatever. Whereas discipline in the other context is something that is intended to make a behavioral change. You were supposed to do this, and you didn't. So now, for example, you have to spend 5 minutes bent over your desk with your nose touching your computer keyboard.
Sounds interesting. I've never heard of that before.
Right, I'm sure you haven't, yes.
Sometimes it's not good to work with your dominant or be in business with your dominant.
But it is important to draw the distinction, because fun discipline.
And we all like fun discipline. We prefer that.
There's discipline that's intended to be fun for everyone, which is the role play stuff. The cutesy role play. I've been a bad girl and I need a spanking kind of stuff. Yes, exactly.
More.
As opposed to
put your nose to the desk.
Yes, when there is a behavioral change that is being caused.
Of course, for some people that could be fun.
Well, it could.
Just for me, it's not.
That brings up another point.
I'm good at doing that.
Behavior modification type discipline is something you will see in couples that are taking the kink out of the bedroom. It's when you are so comfortable with your roles that you want to make them more a part of your day-to-day life than just sex play. And at that point, it starts becoming the dominant's responsibility to create behavioral changes in the submissive. And many times, that is part and parcel of helping the submissive achieve goals that they want to achieve. Anything from helping them stay on an exercise regimen, but not because the dominant decides that they need to, because the submissive has trouble keeping up with a regular exercise regimen and asks the dominant for help. And that's one of the ways that DS can blend into your day-to-day life if you choose to start taking it out of the bedroom. So, and then in that case, when you are doing behavior modification discipline, it's best for everyone involved if it is something that neither one of you actually enjoys. For example, you know that I do not ever spank you as discipline, because you like spankings too damn much. So if I was going to spank you as discipline, that would be sending a mixed signal. I'd be trying to get you to stop doing something by doing something to you that you actually enjoy. And it creates a great conflict in the submissive. And,
But you could try it. Just, see how it works out for me.
I don't think so.
I
think I have better ways of disciplining you.
Yes. We don't need to go into them. I don't want the bell ringing a lot right now. I'm trying to behave myself.
Oh, is that what you're doing? Mm-hmm. Is that what this is? You trying to behave yourself? That's what it looks like?
Yes, it is.
Huh. Interesting.
How many times have you had to ring the bell?
Well, I've chosen not to ring the bell on several occasions.
Okay.
So far this show. Because you've been blushing, but you haven't been trying to hide it, so that doesn't justify a bell ring.
Okay. Moving forward. Moving right along.
Yes, this is you distracting me intentionally and then trying to trick me into thinking I'm the one who derailed the conversation.
Yes, I know. You don't have to tell me that. Okay, so we were...
Just making sure that you know that I know. But that's not to disregard discipline in a scene. Even if your kinky play is restricted to sex play, if a submissive is instructed to do something that is within her limits, and she does not do it, then she needs to be disciplined. And again, that discipline should not be something either of the players actually gets off on or actually enjoys. I'm not saying to be cruel and unusual. Like, for example, most of the punishments I have for you are shame and possibly a bit of positional discomfort. Mm-hmm. very effective with you is telling you that you are being a bad girl.
Mm-hmm.
But so you may want to use either kind of discipline, but you should draw a clean line between them and try to have a good understanding, especially to make sure that you are not thinking that you are doing something the submissive finds unpleasant. So you're not thinking you're promoting effective discipline with an unpleasant punishment, and in fact, you're doing something that she likes.
Like spanking her.
Exactly.
I think I might need a spanking when we're done.
Well, only if you're a good girl.
I'm always a good girl. Okay, don't start coughing now. Okay, too much.
Okay, so what's next on your list of things you'd like to talk about?
So there's a couple more things that I found in different links that I would like you to review with me, and we could talk about it maybe on the next episode.
Absolutely.
And, because I really think that they're important. It really does mean a lot between the dominant and understanding his submissive, and also all the way down to the very last part of it of the dominant not being afraid to admit that he's wrong.
Yeah, that is a tough thing for dominance,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just it's part and parcel of the dominant nature.
But
we would very much like to live in a world where we are right all the time, even though we don't, and it can be difficult. More so for less experienced dominants to admit they were wrong, to apologize for being wrong. The more time you spend with the whip in your hand, the more you kind of see the positive effects of admitting when you're wrong, or when
Mm-hmm.
you have done something you shouldn't have, or when you pushed a little bit too far accidentally. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, I misjudged the situation. I misjudged your reaction to this. I thought you were enjoying it when you weren't. And that's the kind of critical communication that really builds deep bonds of trust between playmates.
Right. And you've never been afraid to tell me. I mean, I know that it's very limited when you are wrong, but
Well, yes, it doesn't happen very often. That's why I'm happy to admit it, because I know someone's keeping track of the calendar somewhere.
But I think it's very important when you're first starting out to know that it's okay. And a lot of the research articles that are from articles of people that I respect, that I have a high respect for, and in every single one of them, it is about being able to admit that you're wrong, openly and honestly, that this part is wrong. But it also is very important, I think, when you're first starting out in this lifestyle, to do the research. And there's so much information out there, so many, a checklist for yourself. There's 3 different ones besides like alt.com and places like that. There are some out there that people put up there for you just to go in and see, is this for me or is this not for me? And I think that as a dominant, when you're looking at a relationship with a submissive, I think it's good to do the checklist with her.
And it can be either on alt.com or really anywhere. FetLife has something kind of similar. It can be good to spark conversation.
Well, you can print one out. There are a couple, I put the links for you to look at, that you can actually print it out, and she could sit there with you and you could go through it together, which I think would be a fun thing when you're exploring, especially if like you're boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife already, and you're finding out that you have this kink side to one of you or both of you. Let's take our list and go through it together. And what do you think about this? Nah, we did it together.
Right. And it's because it's a good exercise at the beginning of a new relationship or at the beginning of exploring kink. And this is one of the ways in which a dominant can start asserting their dominance. To sit down with your submissive and talk about, some of the different things you could possibly do, and have the submissive, pick out a half a dozen things that they're interested in trying, and then give them absolutely no choice as to when, where, and how you try those things. That's how you start to find that middle road between the submissive being able to set limits and needing the submissive to put some kind of boundaries down, but still creating the situation in which the submissive gives up the control and the submissive is able to submit.
And one of the things that you have to look out for when you're first going into this is she a submissive or a switch, or is she a dominant as well? Because if there's two dominants in that household or relationship, then you have to kind of check that out.
Well, right. All this is predicated on, playing with somebody who is trying to explore submissiveness, though. I mean, I'm not suggesting you foist things on your unsuspecting.
No, but what I'm trying to say is when people realize, oh, I have this dominant side of me with this kinky side of me that I really want to explore, and let's say that they're already in a relationship, that person that you're in a relationship with might also be dominant. So it might be hard to get them to be the submissive. And it's easy enough to tell if the person is also dominant. Like for me, I have to be dominant at work. It's a very difficult thing for me. I had, years of experience with you that, I can be dominant with the employees, but not with you.
Well, you can try.
Yeah.
Works out so well.
Not. So, but I'm just saying that it's when you first, I'm really kind of reaching out to the ones that are just getting into it, just exploring it, and know that that's that side of them, that they kind of, you can have two dominants in the family, but then, like let's say it's a couple that's married and he realizes, wow, I really like spanking her and she likes the spanking, but not too much more domination is going to go on beyond that. Then maybe they want to look at having somebody come into the relationship that is a submissive that they can both play with.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at with that.
All right. So on the topic of new dominants, you have not played with many newbie dominants, have you?
A couple, but I'll be honest, I knew what I wanted, and I wanted a dominant that was strong. I wanted a dominant that knew what he was doing. And I tend to really thrive on very intelligent people. And therefore, a new dominant that's would be learning along with me, just wouldn't be something that mixed very well with me. I mean, I did it like there was another dominant that I was being trained under that had other dominants that wanted to learn from him, and he would kind of let them, do a couple of things to maybe spank me or.
So you played stunt booty.
I guess you could call it that. And,
spanking practice, bend it over.
And that part was okay. And that was fun. But I also found myself, as you and a lot of the listeners out there that have listened to our previous episodes know, I also put myself in some very bad situations with some very, dominant people, but I shouldn't say that. People that felt that they were dominant. And there is a link in there that I left for you. This submissive kind of experienced a lot of the same things I did until she came across her dominant that she's with now. She calls him a master. But we both had a lot of the same things that happened to us in our journey of submissiveness. So, yes, I have had some, but it didn't last very long because I knew what I wanted. I knew what I was looking for. And I ended up finding somebody that really wasn't a strong dominant at all. It was more of a very bossy, love to drink person that just, nothing wrong with, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with drinking, but he could not control himself.
Well, and that is an important distinction, and this we'll get into this in particular more when we start talking about sexual submissiveness and sexual submission, because it kind of falls under the category of things that submissives need to watch out for. The dominance, healthy dominance, is not about being a dick. It's not about ever having fear instilled in a submissive. It's healthy for a submissive to have a healthy respect for a dominant, to have a belief, which I believe I have instilled in you, that they are not going to get away with shit.
Yes. Well, and don't get me wrong, when this person first started out, was not a heavy drinker or anything like that. It just, things happen in his life that, course of action that changed him. And, the sad part was, this person that I did respect, became very, I became fearful of, because I was never sure what was going to happen to me. I actually was very fearful of my life. And at one point in time, he was somebody that protected me. But I used to have a lot of submissives come to me and tell me, you need to get out of this relationship and it's not healthy for you. And then you came along and I was saved. So
gave you a pussy spanking on our first date and you felt like you were home.
Yes. Okay. So that being said, that's one of the things that I think as a dominant going into becoming a dominant, one of the things that is very helpful is the research. Take the time to read. There's some great links out there, which I gave you a ton for you to look at. So
yeah, Shara has put together a pretty copious list of links to different resources on the internet that I'm going to review. And we will be posting some links for additional reading and additional resource materials when we do the next episode, part 2 of Sexual Dominance.
And some of the sites that I
Which is not, just for clarity, not chronologically the next episode, which is going to be listener mail. So when we finish talking about Sexual Dominance with part 2, we will make sure there are a list of resource links. And
some of the resource links, when you go into them, and you'll see this, on the left-hand side, there's so many more columns that they can go into and do even more research. So you go into one, and like I said, some of them have the checklist on them. So I think there's just a lot of information out there. But the other thing is, if you're new and you're searching and not sure, if it's for you or not, is to find a mentor that is highly respected in the community that you live in. And they're out there. FetLife, like you said, it has great resources. All you have to do is go out there and watch these people when they're talking, and you can tell who thinks they are, Mr. Wonderful and has all the answers versus somebody that has experience and doesn't act like they, know it all.
Well, and that kind of brings us to something that is very difficult, along with admitting we were wrong. When we are wrong. People with natural dominant tendencies tend to feel like in asking for help, they are displaying some sort of weakness. And we have a gut reaction to not want to do that. And it's something that's very difficult to overcome. But it's something that if you can overcome it, will serve you very well in the long run. The kinky people are, to one extent or another, all a big club. Mm-hmm. And the people with more experience than you have, remember when they were new, and they remember how confusing and difficult and whatever it was. We love helping people out. I mean, that's one of the great things about the kinky community, whether it's just people you know online or people you might meet in person, regardless. A whole lot of very experienced people love to help newbies out because overall it raises the quality and the skill level of the people in the lifestyle. And it's a way of supporting your community and making your own situation better by being surrounded by a larger community of people who approach BDSM with a healthy, nurturing mindset.
You know what I thought would be a good thing to do is if we could get people out there in all the different countries and states and that have a good dominant that they know is a good role model. It'd be kind of nice to have a little list of that going to be able to help people with connections and that.
And who would maintain said list and keep it current?
Probably some submissive that just open up their mouth. I don't know, but
And while I agree with you that is a great idea, I am fairly certain that submissive does not have the time for that.
Maybe she'd have to get a submissive to help her do that.
Yes, that would work great. All right, so it is about time to wrap up this episode, and we'll be doing a listener mail. We got some great listener mail questions lined up for the next episode. In the meantime, as we kind of meander through the topic of sexual dominance, if anyone out there has got any specific questions or if you've run into any specific issues, shoot us an email. Send me an email at jbaltheros@gmail.com. contact Shara or I on Facebook. And links to us on Facebook are available on sexualdarkage.com. We would be happy to mix in a couple of dominance-related questions to the next listener mail. And of course, that offer does not expire. Send us any question about anything whenever you want, but it's just particularly timely. So if there's anything you've been finding particularly challenging, or if you've already been trying to start wandering down this road, but you feel like you've been hitting roadblocks, it's a great time to ask the questions because we're already on the topic.
And I do want to say, I had received a ton of questions on FetLife and Facebook, so bear with me. I'm getting back to everybody, but I've been a little bit on overload, so I was surprised at how many people.
Oh yeah, and I'm currently late responding to stuff on the website. It's been fairly hectic for us for the last few weeks. We ended up taking an unintentional extra week getting this episode out, so we do apologize for that. It's just life has gotten particularly crazy, and we're doing a lot of chaos management at the moment. And
but I want to thank everybody for sending the questions or experiences that they're having, and they have a question about it. And I will get to you. I promise you, I will get to you. And I'm trying to focus on this coming up weekend.
Not a threat, is it? We'll get to you.
No, not that kind of a threat.
It's like Ash from Army of Darkness.
No, that's not me.
Well, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, no, that's not me. Also, Ginger and Coop, I there's a link in there that had to do with the lifestyle and also swinging. So I want you to check it out, and then maybe it's something that we can ask Coop and Ginger if they would be available to come. If they would be available to come in and.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know Ginger and the Prof have been doing a lot more kinky play lately, so
yeah,
might be something she'd like to revisit.
Maybe, who knows? That'd be kind of fun. So anyway, but yes, I something in particular.
Oh, look at you getting all horny talking about Ginger.
Ginger and Coop, they're just wonderful people.
Wait, nipple check. Hands behind your back. Oh, yeah, Ginger, if you're listening, she's thinking about you right now.
Oh, you're so bad. You can never have privacy when you're sitting here doing a podcast with your dominant. It just doesn't work.
Well, you know what Mae West said, don't you?
Yeah, she said quite a few things.
When I'm good, but when I'm bad, I'm better.
Yes, I post a couple good things on Twitter from her.
All right, well, we do have a few birthdays, just a few this time. We have Dina T. on September 3rd. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And Dennis C., September 15th.
And Bill R. on September 16th.
Yes, so thank you very much for listening, everybody, and happy birthday to all of you. And hope you get to have a little fun on your birthday.
That's right. We're always happy to send birthday shout-outs on the show. For those who may not be aware, our sole source of information is our Facebook friend lists and the birthday notification emails that we get from Facebook.
But if you know somebody that's going to have a birthday and you want to make sure that they get mentioned, send it our way. We'll get them up there.
Or, I just had a great idea.
Uh-oh.
If anyone out there has a friend who's a listener of the show, and you would like a particularly filthy birthday message to be delivered to them on the show, email me at jvaltheros@gmail.com and tell me all about it.
That sounds like a good idea.
Doesn't that sound like fun?
I think it sounds like fun.
I swear, we have some of our best ideas like in the middle of a podcast.
That's probably what's really good about doing podcasts. People get their best ideas. So I think that's a great idea. And if you want to make sure that they get their birthday spankings, I'll be happy to stand up and let JV give me the spankings for that person.
And as a prime example of how a dominant can easily turn a careless comment by his submissive into something fun, if you would like me to give Shara birthday spankings on your behalf, please advise me.
Evil.
See how that works, baby?
I see how that works. Well, everybody have a great couple weeks. And the listener mail, when are we doing that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yep.
There's a lot to cover.
Yeah. It's gonna, we're building up a good stock of listener mail items, and some of them I'm probably just gonna respond to via email, or you and I will respond to via email. And, but we definitely are not gonna have any problem filling up listener mail shows, but that is not to discourage anybody from sending questions, because We do not have a perfect track record of responding to everything that anyone sends to us or posts on the website, but we do try like hell.
Well, you get extremely busy between the things that you do for the business and that. So if they want to be double sure, just send it to both of us or send it to me and I do a little checklist for you. So they can send it to me and I'll make sure to put it on there.
Anything else you want to say before I bend you over the couch and paddle your ass, baby?
I just want to say it's been a great couple of weeks.
It really has.
It has. It's been a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So I hope everyone else is having fun out there. And are you doing a homework assignment?
You know what? Not for this episode. I really want to. Well, we're doing another sexual dominance episode. I know, shame on me.
They could do their checklist.
Well, I really, with the homework assignments, I try to capture the essence of something, and I haven't quite been able to put my finger on a homework assignment that captures the essence of starting to find your footing as a sexual dominant. Mm-hmm. But I assure you I will. Maybe the homework assignment ought to be to come over here and spank you.
Well, they might be too far away to do that.
Yeah, not that she has any problem with the idea.
Why, of course not. I know some people that come our way, meaning to our state, and, they've mentioned to me, maybe we're going to have to stop over and get together with you. And I think that is an excellent idea.
All right. So anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks again for listening and looking forward to the next episode.
All right. So once again, it's time to say goodbye. As always, please feel free to join the conversation by posting anonymously on sexualdarkage.com, emailing jvaltheros@gmail.com or jvshara@gmail.com. Or giving either of us a shout on Facebook, Twitter, or FetLife through the links that you can find on our website. And we always appreciate good ratings and reviews on iTunes. The next episode, as I mentioned earlier, will be a listener mail, followed by Sexual Dominance Part 2. In a bit of completely unrelated news, I was hanging out with the guys from the old band over the weekend, and we've decided to put the old album as well as some unreleased stuff up on iTunes, Rhapsody, Amazon Music, and every other damn place where you can get digital music online these days. So I should have some cool announcements about that sometime in the next few weeks. And since it is particularly appropriate to the topic of this episode, after the sign-off, if you'd like to hang around for a few minutes, I'm wrapping up the episode with a fun pub-style drinking tune called It's Good to Be the King. Until next time, this be me, JV Altheros, reminding you that sex is one of the greatest things in life, and there is always room for better. I thought when I was younger 'twas a heavy price to pay, as I watched my dear father toil in politics all day. But he said, you haven't lived until you've had the kingdom's fairest lass. Get right down upon her knees and beg to kiss your...
He's not gonna say what I think he's gonna start.
boots.
Okay. Right, alright, that's all.
I became the able student, learning all that he could show. So when the crown did pass to me, I'd reap all he did sow. He taught me buxom courtiers display their precious wits, in hopes they'd find me reaching for a handful of their
Stop.
honorable intentions.
Wait a minute, that doesn't rhyme with wits. Wait a minute. I don't get it.
Sometimes I must walk slowly for the way to golden rings. Oh, what you must bear when it's your lot to be the king. Sometimes I get witty, but I wouldn't change a thing. But when you get right down to it, it's good to be the king.
I'm good, sis.
Well, hello, Your Majesty. Okay.
It's true I count my women as a shepherd counts his sheep. Sometimes I'm amazed that I can find the time to sleep. That's but one curse of men who spend their lives in politics. We must also be quite careful where we choose to put our
I don't want you to put it anywhere.
trust.
Okay, you can put that somewhere.
I stand upon my towers and survey the countryside.
What's out there?
I look upon the meadows where the ladies like to ride. I see their charms a bouncing, almost makes me want to beg. But you know I need but ask to get my face between their
Landowners, legumes,
lady shit.
bloody lupins. All right, yeah.
Thought he was going to say something else.
Like
Something.
Sometimes I must walk slowly for the way to golden
pretty sure it's not the rings that's making you walk
Oh,
slowly.
what you must bear when it's your lot to be the king. Sometimes I get witty, but I wouldn't change a thing. For when you get right down to it, it's good to be the king. Aye. Then there was that princess who did give me quite a shock. When she said her only wish was to sit once upon my
goodness. No.
throne.
Okay, this was a family show.
Sometimes I get witty, but I wouldn't change a thing. But when you get right down to it, it's good to be the king. Some think because I'm king, then it must mean my heart is hollow.
Oh, no,
But there's room in this throne next to me for a queen who likes to soon. Sometimes I get witty, but I wouldn't change a thing. But when you get right down to it, it's good to be the king. Sometimes I get witty, but I wouldn't change a thing. But when you get right down to it, it's good to be the king. It's good to be the king. Hey!